2022 was a crazy year. Of course, I started the channel in October, and we were lucky enough to do two big trips, one up to the Abrolhos Islands and one to Exmouth and Shark Bay. I've always loved the ocean and all the ways you can enjoy it, whether it's snorkeling, boating, fishing, etc. But 2022 was the first year I really started loving being on and around the water. So I decided to make a list of my top 10 favourite or best moments of this year. Unfortunately, some of the best moments don't have very much footage, but it doesn't take away from the fun of these moments. So here's the top 10 moments of 2022. At 10 we have sea lions at the Abrolhos Islands. It was our last day of our trip to the Abrolhos, and we decided to go to one of over 122 islands to see the sea lions that inhabited the island. I ended up getting some really cool footage, and it was a really cool way to end our trip. At 9 we have snorkeling the Coral Coast. This to date is probably the best snorkel I've ever had. I got some really cool footage. We dropped the boat in and went out to a group of coral bombies a few metres offshore. Everything was right for the perfect snorkel. The water was crystal clear, there wasn't a cloud in sight, and the abundance of marine life was just amazing. So here's the footage. At 8 we have the most fun but least productive fishing session ever. We were using these Halco RMG Scorpions and hoping to lure in a coral trout, but instead we got all these 15 centimeter Chinaman cods smashing the lure that's only 4 centimeters shorter than its home body length, so it really just displays their aggressiveness. We rarely had a lure in for more than 5 minutes before fishing, and in one case actually a squid would hit them. At 7 is our most remote fishing session ever. So we got up just before the sun risen and dropped our boat into a small river. We steamed out to a couple small islands at the bottom of the Exmouth Gulf and trawled around them and got 2 small barracuda, which we released. After a few hours of trolling, my brother's lure got smashed and reeled in, and he reeled in a cold trout. At 6 we have the time I caught a really big 70 centimetre estuary cod. It was our first day fishing the Abrolhos Islands and it was really windy around the 25 knot mark and there was a lot of swell. Despite this, we already had 2 fish in the esky and I hooked on in about 30 metres of water. It gave a really good fight. After a few minutes of fighting it, we got it to the boat and we were stoked because they were really highly rated for their chewing. At 5 was probably the coolest fishing trip of 2022. My brother and I hadn't been fishing since our trip up north, so we were busting to get some fishing in. We picked up my mate along the way towards the marina and we headed out. The day started with a bang as we saw a few humpback whales that came no further than 30 metres from the boat. We steamed out to a ledge near Rotto, which went from about 25 down to 50 metres. We drifted over some really nice ground. It wasn't long before me and my brother both landed a nice queen snapper each. Queen snapper aren't the best eating, so we decided to put one back and kept the other because we didn't have any other fish yet. My mate hadn't caught a jewfish yet and he'd been trying for a few years, so when my dad pulled in a nice one, it was his turn and he didn't disappoint. He got a nice one that was what we call a keeper, which is a fish that's just size. It was just over the 50 centimetre mark. Time my brother, my mum and I both caught a first fish over 50 centimetres. It was the same day I caught my estuary cod and we headed out to some really promising ground. After a few drops, my mum got a nice snapper and soon after me and my brother both landed 60 centimetre pinkies. Then my dad's friend landed a pink snapper and a double header monster silver snapper and a small pinky. At 3 we have the first time I caught a jewfish. It was the last weekend before the demersal ban kicked in and I brought my mate along and we steamed out to the same spot we got dewies last time. Half an hour in I hooked onto my dewey and it put up a hell of a fight. But I landed it and after that I retired from fishing for the day and watched my brother and my mate pull up an entire range of weird and wonderful fish. My brother eventually landed a big breaksea cod. 2 we have the best underwater footage I've ever taken. It was on the same snorkel as number 9, and like I said, the water was so clear. I swam over to a bommy and I could just make out the tail of a white tip reef shark. I dove down and accidentally spooked it as I come back, and as I come back up I darted out behind the bommy. Without realising this, I went over to another bommy and another one came cruising in. I ended up getting really close, and it's still the best thing I've ever seen underwater. Now finally, in first place, the best moment of 2022 is also strangely the most annoying and heartbreaking moment. We went out of the reef through a gap, and as soon as we got out, we could see the bus stops everywhere. This was the first time I hooked onto a fish using a casting lure, and sure enough, first cast, the lure just got absolutely walloped by a tuna. It was all well and good until the reel started screaming and the rod was nearly put out of my hands. The line broke shortly after, and some big bronzies started circling the boat, and we knew what had happened straight away. We tried our luck a few more times but keep getting sharked. We then decided to have one more go, this time using a trolling lure, and I could see the tuna following the lure right behind the boat. I hooked on and got it straight to the boat despite a really big fight, and just as my dad was about to grab the leader, this big mako just came through a meter under the water, and just after half a dozen fish lost and a few $100s worth of lures lost, we decided to go back. This is the same lure that the mako hit, and you can actually see all the teeth marks on the lure, and it literally just chomped the whole lure in half. I want to say a huge thanks to everyone who's liked and subscribed. Really, the support is really good, and yeah, well, hopefully 2023 will bring some more footage, some more craziness, and yeah, we'll see you next time.